Hello and welcome to Brutally Honest Level Review with your host, NateFH, the Geometry Dash YouTube series where I give my brutally honest review of levels with no sugarcoating.
And in this week's video, we will be reviewing the Gungeon by Matthew Games.
Remember to subscribe for more level reviews and make sure to comment what level you want me to review and I'll pick one out for the next episode. The Gungeon by Matthew Games is an 8-moon platformer created in 2.2. Wow, another platformer level being reviewed. It's been a while, hasn't it? I don't plan on reviewing a whole lot of platformer levels as I don't care for the platformer mode as much, but I figured it would be a nice change of pace from the classic levels. Anyway, the thing that makes this level noteworthy is that it's a game recreation of Enter the Gungeon, being the first of two. That's right, 2 recreations of Enter the Gungeon, the other being Eternal Gungeon by Matthew Games. I will not ask, but okay. One thing that I find really interesting is that the level is already aged, despite not even being a year old. Now, you might be asking what I mean by that. Well, what I mean is that in early 2.2, most minigames actually used 1 player instead of 2 player. Very quickly, platformer creators realized that when making more complex platformer levels, using 2 player was almost always the better option as it allowed for more controls. Now, I'm bringing this up because the Gungeon's gameplay heavily suffers from being 1 player instead of 2 player. With 2 player controls, you can have one side be for moving while the other be for shooting and aiming. Having to keep the jump button held down makes trying to jump a lot more awkward, and not to mention that every time you do jump, you waste ammo. This takes away control from the player, which doesn't make it as engaging, and it devolves into a dodge attack simulator until thing dead. This could have been a much bigger issue if the level was above easy demon difficulty, but since it's not, it doesn't hurt the level as much, but that's more of a crutch for poor level design. This may be a personal thing, but I find it really annoying that some attacks are impossible to avoid. Now, I've never played Enter the Gungeon, but I feel like every attack should be avoidable even if it's really hard to. It's not as satisfying to only get hit once rather than avoiding an entire attack. Speaking of the enemies, they're fine for the most part, except that some of them can be cheese, especially with high fire rate weapons. I'm so fucking talented. One thing I do like is they have a few different weapon choices. You have the standard slow but powerful, fast but weak, and average in both stats. There's a secret bow you can get in the big room after beating the chest. Oddly enough, you can't cheese this guy like the others in the room. The bow seemed cool, but honestly, I didn't really play it that much. Out of all these though, the best one is the cat. Yeah, so if you pet the cat enough, it turns into a weapon. It's really good. It's like the cat grub from Gmod, which I like. Sadly though, sometimes this level can break, mostly with the final boss who just decides to not die even though his HP bar hits 0. Why are you still alive? What the fuck? Oh, and there's 3 bosses to go through in this level. Those being the T-Egg, Sharko, and Lich. Pretty non-intimidating, but okay. T-Egg has this gimmick where you can only damage them by shooting the upper portion of the tank, which is a neat idea, but it shows a little more to it as you just circle around the top platforms. Maybe you could have the platforms move up and down or have them be unavailable for a short time. Sharko is a pretty solid boss. It has some nice challenge, but I wish that it was a little bit more different to the other enemies. Maybe you can make it do some wave bullet attacks. Finally, you have Lich. God, I can't take that name seriously. Lich does have some cool attacks, like raising dead bullet dudes and having them shoot for a short time and spawning guns out of thin air. But this guy's also kind of bullshit. It's really common to need to tank shots due to them being impossible to dodge. Oh, and Eternal Gungeon fixes most of these issues, but the gun still auto-aims, which I'm not a fan of. Okay, time to get this off my chest. I, NateFH, am pretty tired of the pixel aesthetic and platformer levels, and find it really boring. Fun fact, all the mythic grade platformer levels used a pixel aesthetic. Now, I don't think it's bad, but a platformer can be made really cool and memorable if it has atmosphere in the deco. Good examples of this are Coaster Mountain and Other Side. I really do wish platformer creators would explore more styles, which plenty do, but whenever I see it, I'm just a little let down. Now, visually, the only thing making this level recognizable is the bullet enemies, which are ripped straight from Enter the Gungeon. However, the bosses do seem to be original. I think all the designs for them are really nice, and I like the design of Sharko in particular. The way it looks like a goblin shark but a battle cruiser on 2 legs is really clever. I wish more people would just make more original minigames rather than just make rehashes of already existing games. Like, it's fine to take inspiration for a game, but it's a lot more interesting if it's your own creation. Master Game is a good example of this. Master Game is clearly inspired by The Legend of Zelda, but also has its own characters and own levels and own bosses, which makes it stand out. Yeah, but other than the enemies, there isn't a whole lot I can say about the deca, as it's just pixel blocks. I mean, I suppose it does look messy, if that's something. These checkpoints do look really cool, though. Now I understand that's not the deca that makes this impressive. It's that it's technically impressive with enemy NPCs and bosses, and yet it's well made, and 20,000 triggers is fucking absurd. But sadly, that doesn't play much, if any, role in my deca score for the level. Hey, maybe I'm going about this wrong, who knows. Overall, the Gungeon is a well-made recreation and or inspired level based off Enter the Gungeon. While it's still loved by many, Eternal Gungeon does overshadow it in basically every way. With everything being said, the Gungeon is going to get an overall score of 6.5 out of 10. But since we're here, Eternal Gungeon is a better version, but still is basically Enter the Gungeon but GD with auto aiming, which somehow makes it less original. 7.5 out of 10.